Welcome. In this explainer, we are diving deep into John chapter 12. This is a week just packed with tension, where pretty much every single action becomes a choice, a statement about who Jesus is. We're going to see a whole gallery of responses, from incredible worship to just cold-blooded betrayal.
Okay, so let's just jump right into the central conflict here. Jesus has just pulled off his most stunning miracle yet, raising Lazarus from the dead. Now, you'd think this would be a time for a universal celebration, right? But nope. Instead, it forces everyone to pick a side. The living, breathing proof of Jesus' power over death is now a marked man.
You can almost feel the electricity in the air that Jesus is stepping into. It's just 6 days before the Passover. Lazarus is this walking, talking miracle, a living testimony to Jesus' divine power. And that makes him a massive threat to the establishment. Every good thing Jesus does just seems to make the division even deeper.
So, this brings us to a dinner in Bethany at the home of his good friends. And it's here, in this really intimate setting, that we see two totally different hearts responding to Jesus in the very same room.
On one side, you've got Mary's extravagant, all-out love. It's just this beautiful act of pure worship. And then on the complete other end of the spectrum, you see the cynical greed of Judas Iscariot. He's already being critical, already calculating. Two of his own followers with two completely opposite hearts.
And listen, this wasn't just any old perfume. Spikenard was incredibly expensive. We're talking about a jar worth about a year's wages for a regular worker. This was likely Mary's life savings, or maybe a precious family heirloom, and she just pours it all out in this act of pure, uninhibited worship and deep, deep humility.
But then you hear Judas's reaction. He tries to sound all noble, cloaking his own greed in the language of social concern. But the writer, John, gives us the inside scoop. It was never, ever about the poor. It's just really stark warning about how a critical spirit can just be a smokescreen for a much darker motive. Jesus, of course, sees her heart immediately and stands up for her. And then he reveals something incredible. He says her act of worship had this prophetic significance that she probably didn't even understand herself. She was anointing him for his burial, preparing him for the ultimate sacrifice he was about to make. So we go from that really intense private dinner, and boom, the tension just spills out onto the public stage. As Jesus enters Jerusalem for the last time, this conflict between worship and opposition just explodes for everyone to see. The crowd is absolutely buzzing with the news about Lazarus. They give Jesus a king's welcome. They're waving palm branches, which was a national symbol, and they're shouting Hosanna, which is a desperate cry for save us now. They are, in effect, declaring him to be the Messiah King. And this is where things get really brilliant. Jesus deliberately fulfills this old prophecy from Zechariah, but he doesn't ride in on a war horse like some conquering general. No, he rides a humble donkey, the symbol of a king coming in peace. He's signaling that his kingdom isn't about political revolution. It's something so much deeper. So while all the people are celebrating, the religious leaders are panicking. They see their power, their control just slipping away. Instead of seeing prophecy being fulfilled right before their eyes, all they see is a threat. And their opposition hardens from just plotting into this desperate resolve to stop him. All right, and now we hit this really pivotal moment. Some non-Jews, some Greeks who had come to Jerusalem for the festival, they asked to see Jesus. And this seemingly small request, well, it signals that his message is about to go global. In response, Jesus doesn't just grant an audience, he reveals the absolute core principle of his entire mission. The question on everyone's mind, especially if they're seeking the Messiah, is how to live a life that really, truly matters. And Jesus answers this, not with some simple command, but with this profound and powerful metaphor straight from nature. The principle is so simple, yet so deep. Life comes through death. A single seed of wheat is basically useless until it gets buried. Only by dying can it multiply. Jesus is using this to explain his own mission, that only by being planted in death on the cross could he bring about this massive harvest of salvation for everyone, Jews and Gentiles alike. And then he immediately makes it personal. He applies this principle to anyone who wants to follow him. He's saying that to find real life, you and I, we have to let go of our own selfish ambitions. We have to walk his path of sacrifice. It's the central paradox of the faith.
You have to lose control of your life in this world to find a true eternal one.
So, as his public ministry starts to wrap up, Jesus makes one last passionate appeal. It's like he's saying, the light is here, but the clock is ticking. He forces everyone listening to decide, once and for all, where they stand.
And you have to wonder, right? John, the author, even pauses the story to ask a tough question. Why? After all these undeniable miracles, why did so many people still refuse to believe? He explains it as this tragic consequence of just persistently rejecting the light, a kind of spiritual blindness that the prophet Isaiah had foretold centuries earlier.
And then John gives us this other incredible and kind of sad insight. He reveals that even some of the leaders, they secretly believed in Jesus, but they were just paralyzed by fear. The fear of getting kicked out of the synagogue, of losing their social status. Their whole tragedy boiled down to a single choice. They valued the praise of men more than the praise of God.
So with his public ministry ending, Jesus basically shouts out this final summary of who he is and what he's about. He makes it crystal clear. To believe in him is to believe in the Father who sent him. He's the light sent to rescue us all from darkness. Right now, his purpose is salvation. But make no mistake, a day of judgment is coming, and the standard will be the very words he has spoken. Okay, so after all of that, after seeing all these different reactions, Mary, Judas, the crowds, the Pharisees, even the secret believers, what are we supposed to do with it all? What are we supposed to learn from their choices? This chapter really holds up a mirror, and it challenges us to look at our own hearts. Is our worship costly and sacrificial like Mary's? Or is it being held back by a critical spirit, or maybe the fear of what other people might think? The core message is that this grain of wheat principle, it applies to us too. Real, true impact only comes when we follow Jesus on the path of self-denial, so that we can produce that eternal fruit. Now it's your turn to really make this lesson your own. I encourage you to use the tools provided. Don't just listen to the story. Think about it. Reflect on which person in this chapter most closely mirrors your own response.
Thanks for joining us for this explainer.